The great hall of the Ilari throne dome shimmered with pale silver light that flowed from the living walls, like slow waves across a moonlit sea. The gathered nobles waited in tense silence as the queen entered with methodical grace. She was tall even for her kind, elegant in a ceremonial mantle woven from the soft scales of her ancestors. Her eyes, a deep and glowing blue, moved across the hall with the calm of one who had ruled for many cycles. She expected obedience. She expected discipline. She expected her daughter to stand at her side and reflect the dignity of the crown. Yet her daughter, the Princess Lyra, stood not at her side, but across the hall. And she was not alone. A human stood next to her. He was broad-shouldered compared to the lithe Alari. His dark hair was kept short. His clothing looked simple, almost humble, but it was clear he had arranged himself with care, as if struggling to match the formality of a foreign court. His name was Daniel. No titles. No long name strings like the nobles around him. Only Daniel. Whispers rippled through the nobles in soft waves. No Ilari would raise their voice during a royal gathering, but their surprise made silence nearly impossible. The princess had returned from her long diplomatic expedition only a cycle earlier. Rumors had already been spreading, spoken behind folded fans and turned backs. Now every whisper had been confirmed in a single moment. She had brought a human, and she had brought him, as if he belonged at her side. The queen took her high seat on the shining dais before addressing them. She allowed the silence to stretch until it grew almost dense. Her gaze then landed on her daughter. Lyra stood straight, her posture firm, but her hands were woven gently with Daniel's. It was a gesture strange for an Ilari noble, but natural for him. It drew even more stares. When the queen spoke, the hall grew even stiller than before. Lyra, my daughter, heir to this throne, you arrive with a companion unknown to this court. Tell me his name. Tell me his standing. Tell me why he stands beside you on this day. There were many ways Lyra could have answered. She could have introduced him as an ambassador. She could have described him as a comrade. She could have softened the blow for the court and for her mother. But she did none of those things. She took a single step forward. She held Daniel's hand without hesitation. She lifted her chin in proud stillness, and she said the words that would echo for years across many worlds. Mother, this is Daniel. The human I wed. The hall erupted. Not with sound, for the Ilari did not break decorum. It erupted with stiffened shoulders and sharp breaths and eyes that widened like cracks in ice. Every noble froze as if their bones had turned to stone. Even the queen's breath caught. Though she masked it not, no one had expected the princess to speak so plainly. No one had expected her to bind herself to an outsider. And certainly no one had expected her to choose a human. The queen had lived through many strange events during her reign, but nothing compared to the sight of her only child announcing such a union before the entire noble assembly. She lifted a hand, and the hall obeyed, settling back into rigid silence. Explain. The queen said dot, and so Lyra did. She told the court how she met Daniel during her travels on the frontier system of Yarian. A joint research station had been built there by several species, including humans, who had earned a surprising reputation for resilience and curiosity. Lyra had gone there to observe the growing cooperation between worlds. The station had been peaceful at first, until a pirate force raided the sector. Daniel had not been a soldier. He had been a technician posted there to maintain the communications arrays. But when the attack came, he had not run. He had led the evacuation of the lower decks, guiding both Ilari and other species through collapsed corridors. He had protected the injured. He had fought when cornered. He had refused to leave until every civilian had escaped. Lyra spoke of how she had been impressed at first, then curious, and drawn to him in a way she had never known. They had trained together. They had worked together. And in the long cycles that followed, they had grown close through both danger and peace. Daniel did not speak while she explained. He did not interrupt. He stood quietly, watching the queen with calm steadiness. He could sense how much this moment meant for Lyra. He knew she stood against the weight of tradition, and he was ready to stand with her. The queen listened to everything without moving. When Lyra finished, the queen rose from her seat. The hall grew tense. "Daniel," she said, the human name unfamiliar upon her tongue, "step forward." He did so. His steps were not loud, but felt heavy to him. He approached the dais and stood at a respectful distance. "Do you understand what my daughter's words mean?" the queen said. "Do you understand what marriage means to our people?" Daniel nodded. "I do," he said. She explained everything. "I know what it means to her, and I know what it means to me." The queen studied him. He did not flinch. He did not look away. His voice carried no arrogance, no fear, only sincerity. "Then you know," the queen continued, "that such a bond must be proven. My daughter has chosen you. This court may not approve, but her choice cannot be dismissed without cause. You must show that you understand the weight of the path you walk." Daniel had expected something like this. Lyra had warned him. Still, he felt the pressure of dozens of noble eyes pressing on him like cold air. "I will do whatever your customs require," he said. "Very well," the queen replied. "You will undertake the rite of joining." A soft rippling of alarm moved through the nobles. The rite was ancient. Few attempted it. Even fewer succeeded. It was not a test of strength, but of unity. Those who entered the rite faced visions drawn from their fears, hopes, and truths. Only those with clarity of spirit emerged whole. Daniel felt a knot in his stomach, but kept his composure. He had survived collapsing stations, pirate raids, and orbital fires. A trial of the mind and heart could not be worse than those. The queen stepped aside and revealed the chamber door behind the throne. The rite would begin at dawn. Daniel bowed respectfully, then stepped back beside Lyra. She squeezed his hand, a gesture of reassurance. "You are not alone," she whispered. He believed her. The dawn came. The chamber of the rite was vast and quiet. At its center stood the joining stone, a smooth pillar of pale crystal that pulsed with gentle warmth. Daniel approached it under the watch of the entire court. Lyra stood near the queen, her expression still, but her hands tight at her sides. Daniel placed his palms upon the stone. A wave of light flowed over him. His world shifted. He found himself standing on Yarian again, yet the station was silent and intact. But when he moved, shadows crawled across the walls. He heard the echo of voices calling for help. The memory of the raid rose again, but this time the vision twisted it. He ran through the corridors, searching for survivors. He reached a door he remembered having forced open during the real event. Inside the room stood Lyra, but she was fading. Every time he took a step toward her, she shifted further away, as if the universe tried to pull them apart. The stone tested his determination. It pressured his fear of losing her. Each step required him to reject doubt and choose the bond he had promised. He reached her after what felt like hours. He touched her hand, and the vision shattered like glass. Light surged again, and a new scene formed. This time he stood on the Ilari homeworld. He saw crowds of nobles turning their backs to him. He saw Lyra torn between them and him. The pressure flooded him with a fear he never admitted, the fear of being seen as less, of being unworthy. But Lyra's voice echoed through the vision, the same voice that had steadied him through danger. He realized the trial did not ask him to prove perfection. It asked him to stand firm in who he was. He stepped forward. He faced the crowd of illusions. He said only one thing, "I choose her." The illusions dissolved. The chamber returned. Daniel's knees weakened, but he stayed upright. The joining stone released him, and the light faded. Silence fell across the hall. The queen watched him steadily. She had seen many fail, yet Daniel stood with clear eyes. He did not sway. He did not break. The queen descended the dais and walked toward him. Every noble watched. She examined him not as an intruder, but as one who had crossed a sacred threshold. At last she spoke. "The rite accepts you." A sharp inhale swept through the hall. The queen lifted her chin with renewed authority. "From this moment," she declared, "let it be known that Daniel, human of earth, stands as bonded to my daughter by ancient law and by his own spirit." Lyra rushed forward with controlled but heartfelt steps. She took Daniel's hand and held it before the court. She did not hide her pride nor her joy. Queen's gaze softened ever so slightly. Then came the question she had not asked earlier, the one the court desperately wanted answered. "Lyra," the queen said, "when you first returned and I asked who he was, you spoke boldly. But now that the rite is done, now that he stands accepted before us, I ask again, who is he to you?" Lyra looked at Daniel. Her eyes warmed with quiet certainty. She turned to her mother. She repeated the same words she had spoken before, but now they carried the weight of tradition, trial, and truth. "He is Daniel, the human I wed." And this time, no one in the hall dared to question it.